Welcome, good learners, and even as we're doing the final touches to the Blossoms of the Savannah by Henry Olekulet, I would wish that we do the final touches to this particular text because you're the last cohort who are going to sit for this particular work. And previously, from our previous uploads, I remember we had done some excerpts. Those were excerpt sample questions. They were um, at most 10 excerpts. Brace yourself with those particular excerpts, familiarize yourself with those excerpts. And this time around, I want to do a very comprehensive, very detailed overview or a survey of the text, even as we're also trying to bring in the 2021 KCSE exam prompt that the last cohort, the previous cohort that they sat for, that is the year 2021. And of course, the styles of responding to this particular prompt, and of course, how to come up with an effective essay, even as this particular paper is concerned. So, brace yourself as I'm going to take you through this particular long, no, not really long, but again, yeah, it's going to be a voluminous, should I say. Now, how to answer KCSE essay questions based on the blossoms of the savannah. How to answer the KCSE essay questions based on the blossoms of the savannah. 1. You need to read the question carefully so that you comprehend its demands. Identify the keywords which will aid in your correct interpretation of the question. Identify the, for example, misunderstanding between the keyword which is highlighted there is misunderstanding. That was as part of the prompt previous years, the KCSE good learners, between the misunderstanding between Ole Kaelo and his daughters, and link it to the resultant conflict. Produce the points of interpretation. What is the misunderstanding here? What is the conflict? Now, answer the question, that is, keeping a glance at the question and keywords, of course, during your writing to avoid digressions, irrelevance, or narration. You don't have to copy paste or end up again narrating. You're supposed to keep glancing or keep an idea, keep focus that the relevant keywords from your prompt should be the ones which are going to tailor suit your response. Now, the keywords in the questions are here. If the words were misunderstanding and conflict, then identify instances of misunderstanding and how that results to perpetual conflict or the resultant conflict in the whole narrative. Now, you equally need to show how Ole Kaelo has different values and opinions from those of his daughter, Reshian and Tayo, and how these different opinions or misunderstandings led to altercations, squabbles, wrangles, or arguments between them, and that is conflict. The altercations, squabbles, wrangles, and arguments between, which make up or sum up what we refer to as conflict. Now, the argument that you're going to produce can be confrontational, like in the case of Rachel, or simply about how the daughters feel after disagreeing with the father, that is in the old text. Now, identify or pick up those particular events, instances where all these ideas or these particular points are coming out very clear. Now, in each of those particular points, you have to link the difference in opinion to the falling out. For example, what is Tayo's opinion about FGM? What does his father want instead? That is a misunderstanding. How does this result in conflict? How does Tayo feel about undergoing FGM? Tayo is opposed to FGM. She says, I also don't care whether I'm counted among Intoi and Mengalana. My body belongs to myself. Only when I'm dead would anyone mutilate my body. That is on page 33. Her father plans for her forcible circumcision. She is utterly displeased with him. That is misunderstanding. Now, they both find fault with their father for wanting to please Olozidori at the detriment of his own children's life. Now, these textual details show how misunderstanding in families can cause conflicts. Now, the two above are textual details. Now, you learners, you need to use episodic approach to master and internalize the events in each episode. Now, of course, they don't have to be in their order of occurrence. You can episodically maybe pick an instance in chapter 1, an instance chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, like that one. If possible, citing page where that text citations is you've picked it from. Now, students who last for this, for example, the last sittings, those who gave it sufficient textual details, they scored full marks. Now, this is a task that we're going to use as our model prompt, and of course, we're supposed to give it maybe the approach on how we're supposed to provide or produce an effective essay that meets the examiner's expectations. Identify episodes where the father's and the daughter's expectations are not in line. Identify episodes where the father's and daughter's expectations are not in line. Or, in other words, misunderstanding. What does the father want? What do the daughters want instead? Bring out the conflict that ensues from the misunderstanding, and by giving specific textual details on how Reshan and Tayo, they do what they feel about the feel or behave following the misunderstanding right there. Now, blossoms of the Savannah Aces analysis. How to write the introduction. We're going to start with the first one. How do you write the introduction when you're providing maybe a response to a prompt that requires to write an essay? Now, first, give your understanding of the question. Show how disagreement in the families cause wrangles. You have to deliberately, start by showing how disagreement in the families cause wrangles. Paraphrase. You can either paraphrase or you pick statements. Now, for example, use your own words to unveil your interpretation of the question. Avoid repeating the question word for word. Don't do that. Include the keywords in your introduction. Link the misunderstanding to the conflict. 2, you need to contextualize. Mention some of the issues that result in misunderstanding. For example, FGM, early marriage, and education, etc. They are within the context, and that's why in the second part of your analysis, you're supposed to contextualize, or of your essay rather, you're supposed to contextualize. Contextualizing, you're mentioning some issues that result in misunderstanding. For example, in this case, we've got the FGM, early marriage, and of course, education. Developing the body. Now, Blossoms of the Savannah essay question, KCSE, that was the year 2021. That was the question that you're going to use our sample model, prompt, and of course, model responses. Now, give at least 4 fully developed points. You need to give at least 4 fully developed. You can do more than 4, but the least number of points that, again, they need to be developed are supposed to be 4. That makes up your body. Each point occupies a separate paragraph. Do not split a point into more than one paragraph. Give adequate textual illustrations of the misunderstanding between Olekaila and his daughters. Points on Mama Milanoi are invalid since the question limits the argument to Olekailo. Get that? Cite enough details on the evidence of the conflict between Olekailo, Reshan, or Tayo. Now, the paragraph that you write should have the following one. Line 1, answer the question, mention the misunderstanding. For example, Olekailo disagrees with Tayo concerning the music extravaganza, leading to a bitter fallout between them. Blah, blah, blah. Or, Olekailo disagrees. The keyword there, misunderstanding, disagrees with Tayo concerning the music extravaganza. That's bone of contention. This one leads to a bitter fallout, conflict. Illustration. You need to show illustrations, details of what Tayo wants. Yeah, you don't have to be too detailed, but of course, provide a good number of citations from the text and by again paraphrasing of what Tayo wants. Details of her father's conflicting opinion, the details of the resultant conflict. Yeah. What Tayo wants, as it contradicts with the father's opinion, and now the resultant conflict, because the father's opinion and the Tayo's wants, they're going to conflict, and therefore resultant effect. Last line, sum up the paragraph with a cliche statement. That is, indeed, Olekailo's disagreement with Tayo leaves her embittered. Capture the intent of the question. Remind, like that is the closing way. You can reflect upon the opening or the prompt. Now, points of interpretation. You're going to need these particular ideas when you're doing your a little bit of interpretation. One, music extravaganza. There is university education, baby boy. There's also FGM, marriage to Oloizudore. Paragraph development. Develop your paragraph. Let's look at a few aspects that you need to identify relevant episodes to answer. The question and specific text, your details required to score a full mark in the paragraph. Topic sentence, that is a music extravaganza. Topic sentence. Ole Kailo, here is how you put it. Ole Kailo disagrees with his daughter, Tayo, over music extravaganza, leading to a bitter fallout. That is our topic sentence right there. Illustrations, page 1, 2. You're going to find that on page 5 and 44 to 45. Tayo had a battle with her father when he denied her permission to travel to Mombasa with other young men and women who had been selected by the FGFM radio station to attend an extravaganza. She had stubbornly put up a spirited fight, but she lost the battle. That left a wound in her heart that was still too raw to probe. Her rage was still seething in her. The simple faith and certainty of childhood had failed her. Her trust that her father would give her whatever she requested had been badly shaken. When Rishan asked her to talk to their father about joining university, she recalled with bitterness how her father's refusal to allow her to go to Mombasa and participate in the musical extravaganza nearly damaged the father-daughter relationship that had always been remarkably close. In her house school days, on several occasions, she excelled in music festivals rather, and she was awarded and gallanted. Broadcasting stations recognized her talent and encouraged her to take music as a career. On several occasions, her parents applauded her when she won trophies on account of her performance, would not have any objection if she pursued the desire of her heart as a future career. An FM radio station offered to sponsor her to attend a music extravaganza in Mombasa and thereafter attend a short course to gauge her abilities. She thought that the news would delight her parents, but her father was furious. He curtly refused to grant her permission and angrily disallowed any further discussion on the matter, effectively crushing Tayo's hope. No daughter of Ole Kailo would demean herself and her family as to perform in public in exchange for monetary gain. It was okay to perform in school festivals, but to perform to a public gallery was one short step to harlotry, and of which the Ole Kailo will not really accept. No amount of persuasion would, of course, change her father's mind. Now, let's look at the simple set book essay questions based on Blossoms of the Savannah, and we look at, of course, sample responses that will sum up or culminate over rather this particular work, Henry Ole Kulet's work. Misunderstandings in families can cause serious conflicts in relationships. Referring closely to the relationship between Ole Kailo and his daughters in Blossoms of the Savannah, write an essay in support of this statement. Misunderstandings, again, in families can cause serious conflicts in relationships. Referring closely to the relationship between Ole Kailo and his daughters in Blossoms of the Savannah, write an essay in support of this statement. Down there is our sample response, good learners. Conflicts in families should be avoided. We can achieve this when we communicate and show deliberate effort to understand one another's feelings. In H.R. Ole Kulet's Blossoms of the Savannah, Ole Kailo as a father fails to initiate effective communication with his daughters and fails to understand them. As a result, the relationship between a father and his daughters is ostensibly strained. First, Ole Kailo fails to understand Tayo's deep passion for music, denying her an opportunity to attend an extravaganza, resulting in a bitter fallout between them. The battle between them ensues when he denies her permission to go to Mombasa with other young men and women to attend an extravaganza. Since she's passionate about music, she puts up a spirited fight but loses the battle. Tayo has always excelled in music festivals and has been awarded. Owing to her talent, broadcasting stations encouraged her to pursue music, the desire of her heart, as a career. She did not imagine that her parents could object to this since they have always applauded her whenever she wins trophies An FM radio station offers to sponsor her to attend the music extravaganza. She thinks her parents would be delighted, but there is a misunderstanding since her father is furious instead. He curtly denies her permission and disallows further discussion. Tayo's fervid persuasions fall on deaf ears. Olekailo opines that performing in public is demeaning oneself in her family. He has no qualms about performing in music festival, but feels that performing in a public gallery for monetary gains is one short step to harlotry. This results in a serious conflict since it leaves a raw wound in Tayo's heart. She seethes with rage. She loses the simple faith and certainty that she had in her father. Her trust in her father is badly shaken. The father-daughter relationship was remarkably close, but the misunderstanding nearly damages it. This is sufficient proof that misunderstanding in families can cause conflict in relationships. Secondly, there is a misunderstanding between Olekailo and Reshan concerning Reshan's ambitions of joining university. That is with the Russian. She wants to pursue veterinary medicine and become a veterinary doctor. She wishes to don the graduation regalia and flaunt the name Dr. Rachel Kylo. Therefore, she nags Tayo to persuade their father to allow them to join university, and that is found on page 4. She pleads persuasively with Sinzo Lekaila, always listens to Tayo, and on page 5 you can find that there. Little does she know that he does not share the same opinion. He wants them to be circumcised and get married. There is a clear misunderstanding between them. Rishan is not interested in peripheral things like husband and children in the foreseeable future. They may come after she obtains her degree, that's on page 18. She knows that if they go back to Nakuru, they would escape the archaic practice of FGM. She badgers Tayo to talk to her father soonest. The disagreement is eminent since Olekailo, on the other hand, wants his daughters to be taught cultural paths since they have enough formal education. Rishan is only interested in university education, which is beneficial to all humankind. She waits impatiently for their mother or Tayo to speak to Olekailo, but none of them does. On page 181. When her father calls her to speak to her about the future, she mistakenly thinks one of them had convinced him to allow them to join university. What a misunderstanding. The father was plotting to have her cut and married off. At his shop, she tries to beseech him to allow her to pursue her dreams, but he declines. She shouts, hollers, and shrieks in outrage. She feels hated and betrayed. In the heat of confrontation, her father slaps her twice. She swears that even if she is 80, she will go to university. The conflict between the father and daughter arises from a misunderstanding. Strangely, another misunderstanding stems from the fact that Ole Kailo wants a boy but a girl. Rishan is born, boy rather, a boy, but a girl, Rishan is born instead. He had prayed for a boy as the second born to carry the Ole Kailo's name to the next generation. He is utterly disappointed when nature gives him another baby girl. Rishan grows up to be silent, bewildered, and of course resentful because she feels the absence of her father's love from the onset. She is awkward and difficult to deal with, and her father hates her even more. He wants to dispose of her as soon as possible since her body develops early. Ole Kailo is harshly impatient towards her, and in the face of frequent tongue clashing from the father, Tayo is her shoulder to cry on. Her tempestuousness is as a result of these. Now she faces constant provocation and intimidation from Ole Kailo, page 34. Her father regards her contemptuously as an awkward, overblown, stupid child and wonders where they fetched her. He compares her to Tayo, who he considers exemplary. His irrational hatred is evident when Olozudo revisits. Her excitement makes him wonder if she has run amok. He remarks that her behavior borders on imbecility. This unfair treatment stems from disagreement and results in conflict. Rachel is unhappy because her father despises and hates her so much. She does not understand that the constant rebuke and ridicule results from her father's ludicrous desire to sire a son. That is on page 174. He sells her to Olozidori because he does not respect her feelings. She screams bitterly, accusing her father of betrayal and hatred. This leads to a serious disagreement between them. Such conflicts can be avoided if parents and children maintain meaningful conversations and avoid misunderstandings. Also, Lekailo fails to understand that the daughters do not want to undergo the loathsome culture of FGM when he plans to have them circumcised. This results in a disagreement. The strained communication between father and daughter results in misunderstanding and conflict. The girls don't mind being counted among Itoi and Mingalana. Tayo remarks that her body belongs to her and can only be mutilated over a dead body. Unlike her father, she detests FGM. Rishan wants them to return to Nakuru in order to escape FGM. Rishan is disturbed because the threat of circumcision is becoming real after Ole Musanga's speech. The sight of Olmurunya is traumatizing and Rishan fears Inkamratani. She declares that her claw-like hands would never touch her. Their father wants Joseph Pamwa to talk to the girls about their cultural norms. The girls, on the other hand, hold extremely divergent views. This is misunderstanding is a breeding ground for the dispute rather between them. In Pamwat's tale, FGM was initiated by women to prevent them from being lured to the old Ilaringon immoral demands. Rishan therefore feels that FGM is useless to today's women. It is a tool used by men to oppress women. On the other hand, her other plans to circumcise her and marry her off, therefore the misunderstanding. Tayo is unlucky since she is forcibly circumcised. She is traumatized. Her mother and three women from Esoit trick her into circumcision, claiming Rishan was on hunger strike and that they needed her help. She is instead drenched in 20 liters of cold water dragged from the hut, wrestled to the ground, and circumcised. She faints after the heart-wrenching operation. And then it is difficult to come to terms with the mutilation. Rishan and she finds fault with their father for forcibly circumcising her in order to please Olosidori. Their misunderstanding creates a wall of conflict between father and daughter. Lastly, Olekalo plans to marry off Reshan to Olosidori, but Reshan is against it and is resolute about joining Egerton University. Reshan is resolute about what she wants. A husband and children are peripheral issues that many may only come after she obtains a degree. According to Olekailo, however, there is nothing better for parents than seeing their children settle in their own homes. The daughter, on the other hand, holds extremely divergent views of the issues. Whereas Olekailo wants Pamwat to give them cultural lessons, Reshan dismisses these as worthless. Olekailo is determined to marry off Reshan too, no matter what happens. He is part of the scheme to have her abducted if he turns down Olosidori's proposal. He totally misunderstands Reshan when he equates her to a goat's kid that refuses to suckle after it is born. He mistakenly believes that Reshan would be ensnared by Lucidori's opulence and grandeur lifestyle. Reshan does not want to get married. A confrontation emerges as her father's shop following this misunderstanding. Reshan hollers and shrieks in anger, protesting her father's selfish idea. She feels hated and betrayed. Her father slaps her. Rishan would rather die than get married to his father's reckless friend, Olusushi. This bitter dispute develops because of a lack of understanding. In conclusion, failure to listen to one another with a view of understanding each other's views, opinions, and values may result in wrangles in a family. Family members ought to communicate freely to avoid such wrangles. Now, that again, should I say, marks the end of this particular final touches of this particular text, that is the blossoms of the savannah, or very soon maybe there is also, I'm going to upload another one that will also enlighten you, that we're going to do an overall survey of the whole text and narrative. We're going to touch here and there quickly on the use of language and maybe predictions, the questions that are likely maybe to be set. And that is after we've looked at the previous, the most recent sittings of exams, that is 2021 and 2022, and that will brace us, maybe will put us at a bar where we can maybe even make our own predictions and of course prepare ourselves adequately for this particular paper. For now, I need to let you know that you have all my best, or you have all my blessings and best wishes from Mr. Sharma. Good day.